You're listening to The Rewatchables, 1999 from Luminary Media. I'm your host, Bill Simmons. I'm with my co-host, Sean Fennessy. Sean, you feeling good? You want a Hot Pocket?
Talk to the hand because the face don't want to hear it anymore.
Want a Hot Pocket? What's wrong, Mini-Me? Austin Powers 2 coming up next.
If you see only one movie this summer, see Star Wars. But if you see two movies, see Austin Powers.
That's right, Mr. Bigglesworth. We're back. Oh, behave.
The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Hello, help me with the chair, please. All I wanted was a frickin' rotating chair. Throw me a bone here, people.
Okay. We wanted Chris Ryan to come, but he said, quote unquote, I'm not a Powers guy.
Coward. He's a coward.
People like when it's the three of us, but apparently not for this one.
Oh, well.
Cowarded out. History of Austin Powers. First one becomes a cult hit, 1997. Huge DVD cable rewatchable. I didn't even see the first one in the theater. I'm older than you.
I did see it in the theater.
It was one of those like, hey, you got to rent this movie, Austin Powers. I'm like, okay. And then the deleted scenes and director's commentary and the DVD, it's all part of like this era where a DVD could actually get momentum for a sequel, which is what happens here. In this movie, the second one comes out and earns $55 million opening weekend, which was more than the entire first film made. So there you go, Sean. It's
incredible.
An old school success story from the 90s.
Yeah. Do you remember loving Austin Powers when it first came out? The first time you saw it?
When one of my waiter buddies, Mark Fanning, we were so fired up for 2 and 3. We saw that one together.
Were you Waiter Bill at this time?
I was bartender waiter Bill.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was 99. And just incredibly fired up to go get high and see Austin Powers. This was a marijuana movie.
Definitely.
Or a silly teenager movie. Those were the two audiences for this. It was just silly.
You emailed us last night and you said, guys, this is a great movie. And my response was, it's definitely a movie. But upon reflection, I'm not sure that it's a movie, but it is really funny. It's just a series of vignettes, especially the second one, just kind of strung together with some interstitial stuff. But it's from Mike Myers, SNL alumnus, one of the great sketch performers of the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Phenomenal at making characters.
It belongs to the 90s.
Totally.
I don't think this movie works now. I don't know if people would know what to do with it. Liz Kelly, my beloved semi-assistant. She's more than assistant at this point. Host of Tea Time.
Voice of the Ringer.
Voice of the Ringer. Just going places. Didn't laugh once during Austin Powers 2.
It's a tough beat.
Yeah.
For Austin. Tough. Yeah. Tough beat for Mike Myers. Does Mike Myers work in 2019? I feel like that's a topic of conversation here.
I'm ready to have it. Let's start there.
Okay.
This whole SNL characters blossoming into movies era, because Wayne's World, I feel the same way about that too. I'm not sure Wayne's World really works either. Because we didn't have YouTube yet. It had to be like this broader, kind of longer than a sketch comedy type of stuff that I don't think works that way anymore.
It's very hard to say. I think if say, for example, Bill Hader had found a way to do Stefan, written by John Mulaney, as a movie, it seems like a bad idea, but they probably could have made it work. Like, we just don't know because they don't make those movies anymore. But going back to Mike Myers, we had a relationship with Wayne and Garth, and the movie made sense because we had been following them for years and years. We had built them up in our minds, and they cleverly crafted that movie. Austin Powers is different. Austin Powers is a satire spoof of a certain kind of 60s swinging spy movie. It's not based on an SNL character. This character had never appeared before. So this is a tough sell. I mean, it's kind of amazing that this movie even got made in the first place.
I always thought it was a Bond movie parody crossed with like some weird 60s English stuff. And basically him doing the same character as Simon, which was an SNL sketch that I didn't really like that much. But
that's true.
Using the Simon voice, but with a wig and bad teeth.
It is similar to Simon. That's right. I mean, and there's a couple of other movies like Our Man Flint, the James Coburn movie from the 60s. There's a bunch of Michael Caine movies that it's clearly based on.
Yeah.
And
they end up getting Michael Caine.
They did in the third one. But it's definitely Bond is the blueprint for it. I don't know.
But you just gave our answer. In the 90s, Bill Hader and John Mulaney write Stefan, and that's a movie that comes out in like 1997 because they did the character 5 times on Weekend Update, and they make the movie. and it's probably really funny and weird, which is almost what happened with Mike Myers with Sprockets,
That's right.
where I think they wrote the script, and I forget either he didn't like the script or something weird happened. And all
I'm
of a
not
sudden
totally
that was
sure why I
out.
went into Turner. And this was after Wayne's World?
Yeah,
Yeah. And instead of doing Sprockets, he ends up doing Austin Powers.
I think that's
on
what it
kind of a
was.
lark.
But he was supposed to do Wayne's World 3, but started developing Austin Powers, and then that happened. But I mean, it's incredible that they made 3 of these.
Well, this one in particular that we're talking about was a massive hit.
Yeah.
Like a huge, one of the all-time comedy hits.
I think
which
it
is
was one of the things I remember about 1999 was this movie.
Yeah.
And taps into Heather Graham.
Mhm.
The whole him playing multiple characters thing, which had, I think, had Eddie Murphy been doing that by then? I think he had.
Yeah, Nutty Professor, I think, is 96.
Yeah. So that was like this new 90s trend that's going on. And, the movie was a thing. It really was. It came out, when did it come out? Like late? It was like right into the summer, I think.
I believe it was a summer hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was June 1999.
And after this movie came out and made as much money as it did, I think he passed Jim Carrey, who's the biggest comic actor in the world, which
That's
is pretty
interesting.
crazy.
What do you
Because Jim
think?
Carrey's kind of, his run had he started doing more serious movies at that point. It was either him or, it was either Myers or Sandler at this point for who had the comedy crown.
I believe 1999 was Man on the Moon for Jim Carrey.
Yeah, what was the other one? Truman Show?
That was 98.
Yeah. So he was like, kind of like, I don't want to be that guy anymore,
Mhm.
basically.
It's weird to think of Mike Myers as the king of comedy because the stuff that he was doing seems so esoteric and so weird. This movie is really weird.
Yeah.
And it's very funny, but it's got all of its reference points are completely lost on its core audience.
Yeah.
Like basically young boys between the ages of 10 and 35. Like, have they ever seen Our Man Flint? Have they ever seen like Dr.
Right.
No or Octopussy or any of these
I
movies?
feel like the Bond movies in the 90s still had some cachet because they were on so much.
They did, but the Connery ones I feel like are not as well known to young
True.
people. It was more like the Timothy Dalton ones and maybe Roger Moore a little bit. So it's just weird that everything that this is based on, Dr. Evil being Blofeld and all that stuff, it's just kind of lost on the audience and it still works.
Yeah.
It's kind of miraculous.
But I actually think that's why part of the reason it worked, because people didn't really know that it was just a straight ripoff of Donald Pleasance with a Lorne Michaels accent, basically.
That's true. You think that people just thought, I probably did think this was just completely invented. That
I
he
didn't know
came
the
up with
Lorne
it.
Michaels thing. We're going to talk about that later, but this was the 90s were a lot about like this nostalgia, mining comedy and the way things we used to think was funny or we didn't realize were funny at the time. And like we made 2 Brady Bunch movies that basically the whole premise of those movies were how stupid the TV show had become after 20 years.
It's true. There was all kinds of stuff like this. You just reminded me of the 2 Addams Family movies too. There was a lot of kind of odd
The
comedy.
Monsters.
Comedy trying to find its way. Beverly
They made
Hillbillies
Lost
movie,
in Space in 98, which I don't know I wasn't even the audience for that. I
also
didn't even
starring
see
Heather
that.
Graham. Yeah.
Somehow they didn't make a Gilligan's Island movie.
That's shocking.
But they did basically all the stuff. They didn't do a Jeffersons movie, which seems like that would have been a no-brainer. But it was a lot of going backwards and then reevaluating why we thought something was funny or why we didn't realize it was funny.
Okay, let me ask you this. What is Mike Myers' key legacy? Is it Wayne's World, Austin Powers, or Shrek?
Shrek.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, Shrek. I think Wayne's World 2 kind of felt, we're going to talk about Apex Mountain later. That felt like when he had the most kind of the highest ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Because how does Wayne's World 2 even get made? And that movie did really well too, and it put him in a better spot. I remember in 93, So I Married an Axe Murderer came out, which is like kind of half a movie.
One of my favorites, though.
It's great.
I love it.
And my whole generation went because we all just like Mike Myers. It's like Mike Myers has a new movie, we're going. And that movie was, I don't even know really what happened, but it has like these really good chunks that became like the legacy of that movie, like the old Scottish uncle.
Mhm.
Boy, heed! No!
He'd move. No.
Look at that head!
Like an orange on a toothpick.
It's like Sputnik! So it had that whole thing, and then it had the scene when he goes to work at the fish place with Nancy Travis, and
Yeah.
he does all Mike Myers stuff. Like, he really could have these 2-minute stretches in movies and that's what Austin Powers is. It's just these little stretches of movie that are just great.
But
and still hold up.
I thought, now, So I Married an Axe Murderer was not nearly as big a hit as Wayne's World.
No.
But I thought what he was going for was a little bit more of like an Albert Brooks type of thing.
Yeah.
Where he would write and direct and produce his own movies, and they would be half serious, half super jokey, and he was trying to get to the bottom of something. Like his character in So I Married an Axe-Murderer is like a beat poet,
Yeah.
and it's a movie about like paranoia and the relationships that you get into and feeling like your partner is after you. You know, that's like there's kind of some ideas going on in that movie.
Yeah.
Wayne's World is just a broad comedy. You know what I mean? It's very specific in terms of the kinds of characters that they're doing.
But Wayne's World's about selling out, which
That's
I
true.
actually thought was, you know, I think there's stuff going on in that movie too. Wayne's World 2, I don't know what's going on.
Well, maybe it's about like the commodification of the culture you love because it's all about like the festival that they're putting on and who owns it. But
there's a whole like Doors subplot that just,
oh yeah, the Native American dude who's taking them on the spirit quest. It's
just rough because it's
yeah.
right after Kilmer made The Doors, which was a big movie. But now it's like if you watch Wayne's World 2, you wouldn't know what was going on.
It doesn't make any sense. But Austin Powers, like, is Austin Powers about anything or is it just a funny movie?
In the research, it just seemed like he came up with this character in the car and it made his wife laugh. And then he wrote the movie in 3 weeks. And I don't think there was a lot of thought put into it. He always was fascinated by accents and the stuff that he did the best on SNL. He was never himself. He was always like wig, prosthetics, some weird character. He was never, you know, he never had that Phil Hartman, Will Ferrell side where he could just be Mike Myers carrying a sketch. It was always a character.
It's true. And his big hero is Peter Sellers, who is
Yeah.
the exact same way. Peter Sellers is always vanishing into parts. Inspector Clouseau, the three figures in Dr. Strangelove. He never was, or a Chance the Gardener and being there. Like he was always transforming. And Mike Myers definitely prefers to transform.
He's one of those guys though. If he dies after the third movie, if he just gets hit by a bus, I think he's remembered a lot more fondly than he is now.
It's a crazy morbid thought.
I know, but sometimes that happens. Like Billy Corgan was another guy like that. Sometimes what you do after your peak affects what people thought of the peak. You know, and he has like the Love Guru. Like he was just on this game show in disguise for like a year.
I wrote about this last year.
Really weird. Yeah, you wrote a good piece about this.
I thought about him a lot because he really gave me a lot of joy in the 90s. I really loved his movies.
Yeah.
I was really into these movies. I probably don't love The Spy Who Shagged Me as much now as I did when I was 16 or whatever. But the things that he has done in the last couple of years are just really strange. And they just don't feel commensurate with how big a star he was. Like he really was. If he got past Jim Carrey, that means he was a megastar. And
well, even that Studio 54 movie he made, which was a train wreck because they cut like a half hour from it. It's like a really disjointed, incoherent movie. And he plays the disco owner,
Steve Rebell.
Steve Rebell. And at that point in his career, I always thought that was a really interesting choice.
Yeah, it was brave.
He's
it was
playing
cool.
this like super gay, coked up guy who's just like basically a predator. But it's kind of a Mike Myers character. And he's really good in that movie. And I remember thinking like, oh, I wonder if he's going to just go the direction Jim Carrey's going, which, you know, we never want our comedians to go these directions. We never want them to become serious actors. You do because you're weird.
No, I think that
most of us just want, like, just stop. Churn out the comedies, dude. Stop it.
I like people who can balance it.
Yeah.
I miss Jim Carrey. I miss old Jim Carrey in a lot of ways. Like go for broke, crazy Jim Carrey.
The thing is, you can only do that for
a
5
little while.
movies.
I
And
know.
the real comedians, they realize that because you're just making the same movie over and over again.
I think that he probably fancied himself a little bit more of a Bill Murray. Where Bill Murray could do quick change and he could also do Stripes. And being able to do 54 or like, you know, in the later stages of his career, he pops up in Inglourious Bastards. He's basically playing a Mike Myers character. He's got a bald cap on. He's got a wig. He's got prosthetics on. He's gained weight. But he's still in a serious movie, sort of, having cool scenes. It's only in the last couple of years where it feels like he's completely rudderless. He wrote a book. He made a documentary about his manager, which is an interesting movie, but it just feels not. It
When
feels
was
like
The
an odd
Love
choice.
Guru?
The Love Guru is 2008, which was a historic bomb, and he instantly aged poorly.
So he really, part of the problem is he waited too long because he does Goldmember in 2002. He'd done Shrek in 2001.
You remember The Cat in the Hat? That was a big thing too.
Cat in the Hat was a thing. Shrek too, but now it's like we're going too far away from. He just had it made like it's the old be Mike Myers in a movie every once in a while. So now it's like we get all the way to 2008 and then Love Guru bombs, and then that's it.
Pretty much.
But I mean, Shrek, you could argue, you know.
I mean, he's mega rich.
Yeah.
He's a comedy
That's
star
another
who's
problem.
mega rich. And these guys get mega rich and they get a chance to do whatever they want. We've seen it over and over again. We see it with Eddie Murphy. We see it with Adam Sandler, who we talked about on Big Daddy. We see it even with somebody like Will Ferrell. I'm kind of curious to see where Will Ferrell goes in his career now because he's basically done everything you can do in comedy.
Yeah.
He's been in 3 or 4 of the funniest movies of the last 20 years. He's basically considered the best person from his generation. He probably takes over for Myers after Myers' run. But where do you go? What do you do?
Well, I think he's at a crossroads now because he just broke up with Adam McKay.
That's right.
Started like whatever his own thing's going to be. So Myers said he knew Austin Powers 1 was a hit. A few months later, Halloween, Los Angeles, 1997, there was some parade in Santa Monica Boulevard and all the cars were stopped. And he was on the hood of his car and he saw 15 Austin Powers walk by him. And he was like, oh. And then started thinking about it.
Pretty great Halloween costume. What do you need? You need a ruffle white shirt. You need a blue jacket.
Bad
you need
teeth.
glasses
Craig,
and a wig.
you should do this.
I'll do it. I'll come
Yeah?
into work, yeah.
For social media?
When we do Gold Member, I'll be sitting here like that.
You like gold.
Goldmember's funny. Beyonce's bad in that movie, though. Uh-oh, Bayhav's coming at me. She's not great in that movie. Sorry. We should talk about the Heather Graham hot streak.
Yes, sure. We just talked
No
about the
pun
Hangover.
intended.
Yeah.
I know, but 6 Degrees, Swingers, two girls and a guy, Boogie Nights, Scream 2, Austin Powers, Bowfinger, both the 99. Austin Powers, Bowfinger. She is at the peak of her powers in this movie.
Absolutely,
Really like her.
shockingly beautiful to me to this
Yeah.
day, but also
She's
consistently in really good and funny movies.
Yeah.
Consistently for 10 years.
And good energy.
Yeah.
Just brings a lot to the table, doesn't take anything off it.
I read something interesting about her in this movie because I think her performance is a little bit weird. And the reason it's a little bit weird is because Jay Roach told her this is the only character in the movie that doesn't know this movie is a joke. So she is playing it straight. She's very cheery. She's very smiley. She's very excited about Austin. She's very openly attracted and interested in Austin in a way that is not ironic. There's no winking. She's just straight
Yeah, she
up.
really looks at him lovingly
Yes.
the whole movie, and he's just a train wreck with bad teeth.
Yes.
And she sells it really well. It's a
Even-
great job by her.
Even relative to Liz Hurley in the last movie, there's something kind of knowing and winking about what Liz Hurley is doing and what Mimi Rogers as her mom is doing.
Yeah.
Heather Graham is just straight up like, I'm a beautiful spy. You're a beautiful spy. Let's get together. That's it. That's the whole performance. It works.
Yeah. Very sexual character, too, for
Oh, yeah.
kind of leading toward where the 2000s were about to go. Because 1999, it was like, this lady's ready to go. And it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
But now it's,
Well, I mean, she's
Yeah.
based on, I think, a series of kind of femme fatales throughout the Bond movies, too. Like, there's obviously that moment where she's wearing the bikini that Ursula Andress wore in
Yeah.
Dr. No. And, she's going for a very specific kind of thing. Like, it's that also is a comment on a kind of character. But yeah, it's very sex positive, as they say, Bill.
great job by her. This movie won a Grammy. Madonna, Beautiful Stranger.
Incredible.
Also nominated for Best Makeup for
Fat
guess
Bastard, I
Fat
believe, is what you're
Bastard.
looking for.
yeah, and maybe some of the other
I
stuff.
mean, maybe Dr. Evil, maybe
Yeah.
Mini-Me.
Let's do the categories because I have a lot of thoughts.
Okay.
So, most rewatchable scene. The Springer scene is still really funny to me at the top. With Scott Evil on Springer and then Dr. Evil coming out and the KKK guy and it turns into a brawl. And
This is just like the
It's just
Doors
so
thing from
fucking
Wayne's
funny.
World 2, though. It's like, this is going to age really strangely in about 10 years when nobody has any idea who Jerry Springer is. You know what I mean?
True.
Like, Jerry Springer in 1999 was at the epicenter of TV culture. I mean, that show, remember when Steve, his security guard, got his
Oh,
own
yeah.
show? Like, that had such a huge cultural impact and people were so aware of what it meant to be on Springer.
Well, think about it. Pre-reality.
It was. It
We
was.
only really had the real world, and that was about it for reality. I still think it's funny, and I remember seeing this movie in the theater. We love Dr. Evil from the first one. Dr. Evil was the big winner of the first movie.
Breakout.
When you rewatch the movie, you did Dr. Evil lines, you talked in his voice. Everything about him was so funny. And then this movie, it starts out, we don't see Dr. Evil yet. Now Scott Evil's on Springer, and then Dr. Evil comes in. It was just a great entrance.
It's pretty great.
Wow, pretty serious stuff. Where is he now?
He's cryogenically frozen, orbiting the Earth or something.
That's what you think. But we have a surprise for you, Scott.
Okay, let's bring out Scott's father, Dr. Evil.
Really good stuff. Mini-Me's first scene.
Mm-hmm.
So there had been rumors about this, that they were going to have,
Is that true? before the movie came out?
that there was a little person in the movie. It's like, oh, that'll be, but not really knowing what it was.
Okay.
And then
were you on like the little people message boards? How did you know about this?
Trying to find out what was in this movie.
Were you doing some digging for dirt in
Yeah.
Hollywood?
Yeah, it's just going on the message boards. And then Mini-Me's like, we've got a clone. Here he is.
1/8 your size.
Dr. Evil goes,
I shall call him Mini-Me.
and then they're spraying him and he hates Scott Evil immediately. The Mini-Me Scott Evil feud is fantastic.
That part is good. If you're watching this movie for the first time and you've never seen it, something like Mini-Me, even more so than Jerry Springer, like it's kind of hard to explain what a phenomenon that was.
Oh,
and
yeah.
how famous Vern Troyer got.
He really was.
It was a thing. This was when like the MTV Movie Awards really mattered and those people were showing up in those spaces. Just a completely different time.
There hadn't really been like a go-to little person.
Warwick Davis was probably the previous one in Willow and when he was
Do you
playing
count
the
Webster?
Ewoks. Sure. But
Webster had a run. Gary Coleman had a run for a while.
Yeah.
Hervé Villachez in the late 70s.
Before my time.
And then it was kind of dormant. And then Vern Troyer came flying in, took the belt.
It's like a 5-year-long heat check too.
He was on the Surreal Life.
That's right.
And was kind of a boozer. It was actually like, I think he fell off the bunk bed at one point.
Yeah.
It was tough.
He had a lot of struggles,
He had a rough
I feel
life.
like. Yeah.
Wasn't that happy.
No.
Okay, too bad. Another rewatchable scene, the Alan Parsons Project. I will call it the Alan Parsons Project. And Scott Evil's great in this movie. We'll get to him later, but he's just really sarcastic and cutting him down left and right. And all of that was good.
Really enjoy Seth Green's work in this movie.
Also, nobody under 30 probably knows what the Alan Parsons Project is, but that's also the scene when number 2 says something and Dr. Evil goes, I don't like that insolent tone. And it's just that whole 4 minutes is really good. The scene when Dr. Evil asked President Tim Robbins for $100 billion and the whole war room's laughing hysterically and all that was great. And then I had the Austin Powers Mini-Me fight in space. Is just a really good slapstick 2 minutes.
Great callback to the toilet sequence in the first movie as well with the Lucky Charms and the assassination attempt.
Anything else?
Well, I think every time they do the supercut where they're making all the dick jokes about the spaceship flying is probably my favorite part of the movie. Yeah.
That looks just like my husband's.
One-eyed monster. Step right up and see the one-eyed monster.
Hey, what's that? It looks like a big...
Woody Harrelson? Can I have your autograph?
Sure, no problem.
Suppose they added, I don't know if it was the first one or the second one, but the test audiences loved that so much that they went back and reshot more stuff with more people.
The Woody Harrelson cameo and the Willie Nelson cameos are pretty incredible.
So you go for that for most rewatchable?
I do love it. It had me laughing the
What do you
hardest.
have, Craig?
Sadly, I laughed at like the Johnson's joke, probably a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple more, right? Like,
I like Mini-Me's first scene.
What about the scene in the tent? You know, where they're
Tent's good.
running back the like pulling stuff out of the bag, and it
Yeah.
looks like she's digging in his ass, and she pulls the gerbil out. It's pretty like the most sophomoric shit ever, but just so really funny.
I think the scene with the one inept guard when they're in the fire pit and he's upset that she slept with Fat Bastard. Why don't you go sleep with Fat Bastard? And then they end up together, and then the guy falls in and he does looks like he's been fired. It's just so stupid. It's really dumb.
What about pretty much anything with Fat Bastard? Where are you at on Fat Bastard in 2019?
Oh, I like him. I mean, he was more effective in 1999 than I think he is after 20 years. I like the end when he starts crying. But are you happy? And they just kind of break Fat Bastard down.
I eat because I'm unhappy. And I'm unhappy because I eat. It's a vicious cycle.
I like also Fat Bastard and Mini-Me's first meeting. You know, that was
Get
kind
in
of a
my
meme.
belly.
Get in my
I should
belly.
have put that in there.
Yeah, and that's a
Look
pretty
at
great
him.
one. Yeah.
I want to eat him.
Also, I can't. This movie is so strange. When he starts singing the Chili's theme, but we're in 1969.
I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back ribs.
Excuse me.
Chili baby back ribs.
Dr. Evil.
Like, that is just incoherent.
Yeah.
It's really funny, but it's also a joke that isn't going to make any sense to anybody who was not alive at that time.
Well, I have this list of our next category, what's the most 1999 thing about this movie?
Okay.
And it's the longest list we've had since we've done this category. First of all, American Online.
Oh, yeah.
Not even called AOL. It's called American Online, and it's like prominently involved. I couldn't be happier since I'm still on AOL. I'm one of the last people.
Congratulations.
But they don't even call it AOL. It's still American Online. And it's like, he's got email. Oh, I've got an email. And it's like American Online with the noise.
Yeah, like he opens up a laptop and we see Basil Exposition on a video conference. I will say pretty good video technology, though.
Good. Strong
Skyping.
Fat Bastard singing the Chili Baby Back's Ribs theme song was like
bizarre.
About as 1999 as you're going to get. A Rebecca Romaine cameo.
Oh, yeah.
Back when that was like peak Romaine. She wasn't even Romaine Stamos yet.
Coming in hot.
Yeah. Mike Myers being a comedic genius just feels very 1999 to me. I don't know if the people under 30 are really like, who's one of the greats? Mike Myers.
That makes me sad.
I know. That's unfortunately true. The whole Starbucks Seattle motif was a big deal in 1999 because that was right around the time they were popping up and people were like, what the fuck? Starbucks, it's taking over. What are we going to do? And so they set Dr. Evil's compound in part 2 they actually have the Starbucks thing. I thought that was funny.
That was a more ubiquitous idea back then, but I do feel like that joke still works now.
Yeah.
Like you could still see the idea of number 2 investing in Starbucks and then becoming hugely successful while this guy is cryo-frozen. I thought that was kind of a clever bit.
Very successfully executed. There's some Jerry Maguire jokes here where he does the show me the money and you had me at hello that just like 20 years later just aren't going to work, period.
This is just an SNL sketch for 98 minutes.
And then Springer, which we talked about. So what was the most 1999 thing about this movie?
Probably America Online.
Yeah.
That I can't believe, I don't even understand how you still have an email address that is AOL. Like, how does that work? Like, do you log on to AOL.com to read your email?
I'm right here.
What do you do?
It still works.
What is that? Like,
you read about an AOL hacking? It's never happened.
Okay. So is that a challenge to the
just
world?
Saying. What stage the best? The opening credit sequences still make me laugh.
Yeah.
Those are really good in all 3 movies. I thought they did a nice job with those. And also the cut between scenes of when he's just like staring at the screen, making weird faces. Because ultimately this movie is just dumb sketches. And if you don't do that, it's incoherent.
I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
It keeps the movie really briskly moving.
The concept of Mojo is pretty good. And I do feel like it became, I think it's actually aged well and probably partly because of this movie. I think Mojo is a word people use and still use. And he lost his mojo. We use it in sports a lot. I don't really remember it being a thing until this movie. I might be wrong.
It is kind of a Billism now that I think about it. I feel like you use it pretty frequently.
I love this movie. I saw this movie 20 times in 1999, 2000.
That's interesting. I feel like this movie weirdly like looks pretty good. It's very colorful. It's like the production design is nice. The way that it's shot,
modern.
It's way bigger and clearly more expensive than the first one. The first one, pretty ramshackle. Like they're definitely just trying some shit on a small budget. But even like the mojo in that canister looks like something you'd see in a Star Wars movie. Like it feels pretty credible, even though the idea is really stupid.
Dr. Evil as a cross between Donald Pleasance's Bond villain and Dana Carvey's Lorne Michaels impression is just really good. Like the Lorne Michaels thing, which I think has now over the last 20 years become more of a known thing. People imitating him, especially because of podcasts. I've had multiple cast members on my podcast do Lorne Michaels impersonation. I didn't know that in the 90s.
Me neither.
I don't even think I really knew that Dr. Evil was supposed to be based on Lorne Michaels. I don't remember even reading that or knowing that until the next decade.
What'd you make of the Dana Carvey revelation recently that he feels like he created Dr. Evil and Mike Myers lifted that from him? Did you read about that at all?
Oh, I was going to get to it. You want to do that now?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting piece of Myers Carvey history.
Oh, he definitely took it from him, and it was why they didn't talk for like 15 years.
Isn't that crazy?
Everyone who was at SNL said Carvey was the one who was like famous for doing the Lorne Michaels impersonation with the finger, and then Myers just took it as whether he just took it to take it or as like a fuck you to Carvey because they didn't really get along in Wayne's World 2. I don't know.
It's a good question. I mean, it does kind of sum up the conundrum of Carvey and Myers. Like everybody always thought Dana Carvey was the funniest, but he never was able to find or create like a vehicle for himself. And Myers was always really good at saying, like, I can build a whole world around a character. And so if Myers is able to take Dr. Evil, like, was there any expectation that Dana Carvey could ever come up with Dr. Evil and then make a credible movie around him? Probably not.
Well,
like they needed each other in a lot of ways.
So I have this in casting what ifs, but we'll go now. Mike Myers wanted Jim Carrey to play Dr. Evil, and Carrey passed.
No kidding.
Yeah. And this was in 97. So what's interesting to me about that is, why not ask, if you're going to have somebody play Dr. Evil initially, why not ask Dana Carvey, the guy who did the impression?
So I wonder if they were on the outs even before this happened.
I think they hated each other. I think Mike Myers was a really difficult guy. And that was, I think he's a very strange, difficult guy to work with. And he's like a perfectionist. And I don't know if that went well.
It's too bad because the two of those guys together had something very unique. And
I agree.
It's hard to recreate that. And duos are more powerful. And like, I like these movies a lot. I much prefer the Wayne's World, So I Married an Axe Murderer era of Myers, you know, and even the SNL era of Myers. That's my favorite version of this, as fun as these movies are. I'd kill to see those guys in a movie again together.
I always thought the Wayne's World thing started because Garth was funnier than Wayne, and Garth was the greatest. I thought he was so fucking funny, and I think Myers probably knew that, and it probably bothered him.
Maybe
because it was Wayne's World, but Garth was funnier.
But he was a perfect sidekick. He was like high-level comic relief, and Mike Myers got to have the love interest. He got to be the center of the story. He got to be in the most scenes. He still got all the movie star stuff, and Garth got to just come through and crush it with
It's
great
like what
gags.
happened to you and Chris.
I don't know what you mean.
That's why Chris isn't here, because Chris is Garth, and just people love Garth.
This makes you, I think, Dr. Evil then.
It does. Speaking of Dr. Evil, another thing that's aged the best, his giant nipples are just so fucking funny and random and not addressed, but he has this see-through shirt at one point, and his nipples are like the size of...
You're talking Dr. Evil, right?
Dr. Evil.
During the sex scene.
Yeah. For some reason, they just threw in these massive nipples for him. It fucking kills me.
I think that the sex scene, or the lead up to the sex scene with Frau Farbissina, it's a crazy thing I'm talking about on a podcast, is not that funny, but the scene afterwards when they have the encounter at the coffee is incredible. That might be up there on the rewatchable scene too.
The Mustafa post-injury, which they basically ran back from the first one when he's at the bottom, and he's
I'm
like,
badly hurt.
I broke both of my legs. And then he goes, the wound is beginning to smell a little like almonds. He's just down on this mountain ad-libbing for hours probably. That makes me laugh. Mini-Me Stop Pumping the Laser is fucking funny, and that's always going to make me laugh.
That's good.
Yeah, when he's talking. That's part of the scene when he's talking to President Tim Robbins. And then I really love Mini-Me's goodbye card for Scott Evil when he shows it to Dr. Evil, and Dr. Evil's like looking at it, it's laughing, and then hands it. And the Mini-Me Scott Evil feud is fucking great to me.
Have you shown this movie to your kids?
Yeah, they like it.
They do.
Yeah.
I feel like Ben
it's in my son's wheelhouse.
Yeah, Ben would really dig this. Yeah. Humping the Laser that's Ben core.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of, and the fight scene with Mini-Me.
Right.
So what stage is the best, Sean?
Hmm.
Oh, I forgot. I shall call him Mini-Me. Like that. I say that a lot when my son was smaller. That used to be a running joke. I would call him Mini-Me.
That's cute.
Yeah.
What's age the best? Definitely not Mike Myers' Dr. Evil nipples. That's not in contention.
Those
for me.
nipples are fucking funny.
I think just the idea of saying fuck it, we're just going to make this 13 sketches connected to one another is actually the thing I like the best about it, and not like an effort to make it a movie, just the effort to be like, let's just do as much funny stuff as we can. That's my vote.
I vote for Mini-Me and Scott Evil. I love that feud.
Okay.
What's age the worst? Felicity sleeping with Fat Bastard has just grossed me out in 1999. I still don't feel good about it now. I get the whole thing, the reasoning, but I don't know.
Well, same thing with Heather Graham just playing it straight, you know, like not breaking or winking at the camera or anything. We were talking about this before we recorded some of the folks on the pod team, and it's really disgusting.
Yeah.
Like Fat Bastard is authentically gross. And like it looks like he's been living inside a fried chicken shack for several days. He is just so greasy and disgusting. And like, they're really just showing a lot of his body, his prosthetic body. It's just gross. So I can't say I love that.
I would have rather she snuck in and just inserted it or something. The Kristen Johnson as Ivana Humpalot, those scenes are just bad.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of hers. She's not really comedy gold to me.
Bad accent, just not funny. Fat Bastard being a ripoff of the uncle in So I Married an Axe Murderer. I just had to mention that. That's aged the worst for me.
So
Same voice.
If you look at the Mike Myers Scottish Hall of Fame, you've got the uncle from So I Married an Axe Murderer, you've got Fat Bastard, and then you've got Shrek. And all three of them together form the weirdest trinity of movie characters of all time.
It's all the same accent, though.
Same bit. He managed to take that bit, which I think is based on one of his own uncles, and make it like a comedy empire. It's bizarre.
And he's Canadian. Just the Two of Us as a rap song. That's just
hated that.
I didn't really like it in 1999, but now it's insufferable. That's just a fast forward.
That and the What If God Was One of Us part. I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, it's tough. And then parroting Bond movies, not great. I would say the age the worst is just. I love Felicity. I didn't want her to sleep with Fat Bastard. It was gross.
That's age the worst?
Yeah, I just didn't like it.
Okay.
This just grosses me out.
Sure.
She's so perfect in this movie. I don't want her to have sex with Fat Bastard.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't like the musical numbers. Not in on that.
Yeah. Casting what ifs, mentioned Jim Carrey. Colin Quinn turned down the role of Scott Evil in 1997.
Whoops.
Tough beat.
That's bad. Seth Green, you got any Seth Green deep thoughts?
I liked him in this movie. I thought it was like perfect Seth Green. And I really think he kind of parlayed into a couple other things, you know?
He's between this and his run on Entourage as like the dick from the other crew. That's pretty great work. Like self-referential Seth Green stuff is really funny.
Rob Lowe got this part because he did a Robert Wagner impersonation for Mike Myers one day when they were golfing, which I have a lot of questions about. Mike Myers golfing just seems weird to me.
Scottish.
I wouldn't have put him in the top 20 celebrity golfers. And
Rob Lowe, though, is like in the top 3. I mean, has a man ever been born to not play golf?
Apparently, he had dated one of Robert Wagner's daughters way back when, so he had spent time with Bob Wagner. And so he could do an impression. And then a couple of months later, Myers gave him a script, and he'd already been cast as number 2.
Well, they also have an amazing, history together from Wayne's World. Rob Lowe in Wayne's World is iconic. I really love his
I actually
part.
what's age the best for me? I would have thrown in Rob Lowe and Robert Wagner if I didn't feel like Robert Wagner didn't kill Natalie Wood.
Oh boy. Wow, you just really took this podcast to that place.
Conspiracy theory.
Uh-huh.
Just 3 people on the boat. Something happened.
Where do I go from here? What should I do?
Let's go to the next category. Deanne Waiters Award.
Okay.
I'm kidding. We have no idea if he actually killed Natalie Wood.
Great save.
3 people on the boat. And then there were 2. Something happened.
Thank you so much for listening to The Rewatchables 1999.
Deanne Waiters Award. Seth Green, Vern Troyer, Will Ferrell, and Rob Lowe. Those are my 4 candidates, unless you want to put Frau Farbislin in there.
I feel like Elvis Costello's really going for it.
He really is.
He's like
there's a close-up.
Yeah, big performative moment for him. Like, and they're on him, and then they cut away, and then they go back to him, and I'm like, did we really need more Elvis Costello? But Mike Myers is just doing stuff he likes, which is really funny. We've also got Woody.
Yeah.
And Willie Nelson.
And Tim Robbins.
What about, do you know who plays the Cyclops?
No.
Jeff Garlin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And who else is in the mix here? You mentioned Rebecca Romaine?
Yeah, sure.
I guess Rob Lowe is my answer.
I would say Vern Troyer is the Deanne Waiters winner. He's going for it this whole movie.
He's not.
This could have been really. Huh?
He's not Saul Rubinek?
No, I have a different answer.
Okay. All right, I'll go for Vern Troyer. That makes sense.
Half-assed internet research. He didn't do a third Wayne's World film so he could develop this movie, which I can't believe they were going to do a third Wayne's World movie. We didn't really talk about that. Nobody wanted that.
We need to get to the bottom of what happened to Carvey and Myers. Yeah. That's important.
Do you think they killed Natalie Wood? So one day, Burt Bacharach's The Look of Love was playing on the car radio, leading Mike Myers to think about where the swingers of the world went to. This led to him asking his wife if she swung and if he was making her horny. She laughed, and he decided to write Austin Powers in 3 weeks.
But he didn't ask her straight up. He was doing a bit in
He was doing a bit in an accent.
Okay. He wasn't like,
he was just trying to make her
love
laugh.
of my life, have you swung? That would be a weird thing to say to
He
your
started
wife.
to talk in weird English accent.
Okay.
Have you swung? Do I make you horny?
Over under 100 times you've done the Austin Powers voice to people close to you.
I never did. I was Dr. Evil constantly.
Never
loved
did.
doing Dr. Evil. No, I couldn't do the Austin
You've
Powers.
never said, do I make you horny to anybody in your life?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay.
I did that. That would have been gross.
Do you think if Chris was here, he would just be relentlessly doing that bit? Do I
Yeah.
make you horny? Just
Wow.
over and over again?
You got rid of Chris, so we'll never know.
It's just patently untrue.
How about this? Before the original movie premiered, a 1-hour Austin Powers special aired on MTV and is on YouTube. And you can watch it, and he's in character, and there's bits and celebrities, and this is like, what?
Guess what? I watched it last night.
Did I? I wanted to watch it. I didn't want to get sucked in.
I guess the 20 or so minutes that I could find on YouTube I watched, and it was super weird. But it does remind me of a time when a movie came out, MTV would be like, yeah, we're going to do 4 hours of programming about this movie. That feels like a long time ago. We don't have that anymore. We have plenty of stuff on YouTube that we can watch all the time.
By the way, by 1999, that was gone. I would say that the sweet spot of that was like 90 to 97.
Yeah, you're probably
By
right.
99, the internet started to become a way to promote stuff. Fat Bastards, 2.5 hours of makeup every day, not 7. It's been said 7, but that's not true. It's really 2.5.
Interesting. Okay. I was going to drop the 7 bomb on you.
Heather Graham was in Goldmember, but got cut. Apparently, Goldmember, the original cut was like 3.5 hours, and they had to cut like half of it. So there's scenes of her in Goldmember.
There is an iconic cover. I think it's Details magazine of Heather Graham. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Craig, have you ever seen this?
No.
Let's take a look at this right now. This, if you want to just get a look into my mind as a teenager, here it is, Details magazine with Heather Graham on the cover. It says March 1998. She was covered all in gold paint, like the woman in Goldfinger.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is why she ultimately got this part. Do you remember this? So if you look at the magazine, it was a trifold cover, and it opened up twice, and it was her whole body. She's wearing roller skates, no clothes.
Yeah.
Right after the release of Boogie Nights, ripped that right off the newsstand, bought it, paid for it without my mom knowing, ripped the cover off, opened the trifold, pinned it to my wall. It was probably on my basement bedroom wall for 3 years.
Wow.
True
Heather
story.
Graham.
Heather Graham.
Got to get her in for a pod.
Always in my heart.
I came home. I was at the newsstand, which I tend to go. I like to go to the newsstand and see what magazines are out. Bought my son the SI swimsuit issue, and he was really grateful and really appreciated it.
You bought your son like this week? You just did this?
Yeah, I did last week.
What was his reaction?
He was really happy, and he took it and disappeared for like an hour. He's 11.
Well, that's horrifying.
No,
what you
he
just
likes
said to me.
he likes models. He didn't disappear though.
Let me ask you this: does your son know about the internet? Why are you buying him magazines?
Because he likes models.
My
son is the beautiful girl's Michael Rappaport character now.
You own and operate a new media company.
I know. He likes looking at old school magazines and looking at the pictures. Just telling you.
How long before you start getting him vintage copies of Hustler?
No, come on.
But this is pretty close.
Stop it. Last half-assed internet research. Demi Moore is an EP on all 3 of these films. And I have no explanation for it. I couldn't really find anything. I don't know why she's involved.
I do believe that the Todds, Suzanne and Jennifer Todd, are her producing partners. And I believe the Todds have a relationship with Mike Myers, which is why they're all involved in producing this movie.
Think she was giving notes?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, and Demi Moore at this time, this is like G.I. Jane time, right? Oh no, it's right after, G.I. Jane 97, Deconstructing Harry 97. And then she takes a couple of years off.
It's because Robert Wagner tried to kill her.
I'm beet red right now. Beet red. Are we going to talk about Jay Roach?
We can. I was going to do Apex Mountain.
Ooh.
Jay Roach is on Apex Mountain. Is this Apex Mountain for Jay Roach? It's got to be, right? This movie made a shitload of money.
Yeah, although, God, I mean, he really parlayed these freaking movies into a huge career. I mean, who was Jay Roach before this? He had written Blown Away. That was it. That was all he had ever done.
That's amazing.
And this is the Jay Roach run.
Yeah.
97, Austin Powers International Man of Mystery. 99, Spy Who Shagged Me. Same year, 99, Mystery Alaska. 1 year later, Meet the Parents. Then Goldmember. Then Meet the Fockers. Dinner for Schmucks, which I think is actually pretty funny, but bombed. The Campaign. Then Trumbo. And then this year, he's got a movie called Fair and Balanced about Fox News, starring Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, and Margot Robbie.
Do you think he made...
Plus all the HBO movies, Game Change, Recount, there were huge hits and he won Emmys for.
Right. He was good. Those are good.
Those are good.
Yeah. Nice 20-year career by Jay Roach. 25.
Yeah. I mean, he literally turned an Austin Powers movie into one of the more significant portrayers of American politics on movie screens. Like, that's crazy that he did that, but he did.
And there's no Jay Roach conversations.
No.
Got to get him on a pod.
He also appears very humorously on this season of Barry. Season 2. Bill Hader auditions for him. He's the director that he's auditioning for.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Allison Jones, the very famous casting director.
Mike Myers, I say yes. Coming out of this movie, it's like...
This is the height.
Has the power to do anything. Leads to Shrek.
Absolute height.
Vern Troyer, no question. Heather Graham, tough one. I'm leaning toward yes because it felt like it was a thing that she was in this movie. And she also had Bowfinger same year. And Boogie Nights, as much as we revere that movie, was not like a smash hit sensation or anything. And I just feel like this was probably it. This is the most successful movie she's been in. This is right during the Maxim Details era, which is like she's one of the Mount Rushmore people of that era.
I think you're right. I think this is her Apex Mountain. Do you know Heather Graham is going to be 50?
Wow. Legend.
Isn't that crazy?
Lorne Michaels impressions?
Well, Dr. Evil impressions. I'm not even totally sure we understood the Lorne Michaels thing until a couple of years after this.
Anything else for Apex Mountain?
The VW Bug.
Maybe.
Remember when they relaunched that? That feels like
America
that was really
Online?
in the mix. Probably.
This is right before the merger.
Probably. When did you do your first mailbag?
97.
Okay. So not quite. So not the Apex Mountain of mailbags.
No.
Is it? I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty good though.
I think there's a really good chance I did an entire Austin Powers fake movie script parody involving like the Patriots and Pete Carroll.
In a column?
Yeah. I think I wrote a whole column parodying this movie with Pete Carroll.
Can I be honest? That doesn't sound very good.
I think it was pretty good, actually. Yeah. I think it was like solid.
I think this was also Apex Mountain for let's just throw all these random songs in a soundtrack.
Yeah.
You know, Madonna, they're Dragging the Line by REM, Lenny Kravitz's American Woman. Is this also Lenny Kravitz's Apex Mountain? I feel like his cover of American Woman was like a big thing. And also, wasn't Heather Graham in the video for American Woman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So maybe Lenny.
Yeah. That's good. The Joey Pants Award for the best that guy or that girl in a movie. It's got to be Frau Farbissina.
I was just going to say Mindy
I had to look
Sterling.
up her name again yesterday.
Got to be Mindy
I don't
Sterling.
know her in anything else. I know she's been in a bunch of stuff, but...
Yeah, Mindy Sterling. Is there anybody? I mean, what's your relationship to Michael York?
No, he's Michael York.
He was once a big star, but
He was
I
a big
think
star.
to my generation, I didn't know that was the guy from Logan's Run and the Three Musketeers.
Logan's Run was a big movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Saul Rubinek, they knew. I have Kristen Johnson for this one. I never really understood her, that whole thing.
Not a Third Rock from the Sun person?
No. Her and Lithgow together, that was like my idea of hell, watching that show.
Wow, you're out on Lithgow?
I think I'm
Are
not
you
out.
kidding me?
I'm not out. Not out. I've liked him in things. I think he is one of those people that is better or worse depending on who's around him.
Okay.
And in that one, if it's like, oh, I can just go nuts, that's the Lithgow I don't like.
This is a take.
Loved him in Dexter. Loved him in World According to Garp. Loved him in Cliffhanger.
Okay.
I like him in certain roles.
What about Ricochet?
Liked him in Ricochet.
Raising Cain?
Nah, not as much.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
This is brutal. But yeah, Kristen Johnson, that's good. That's a good call.
Picking nits. So Vanessa, it turns out she was a fembot at the beginning of Austin Powers 2. And then she blows up. And then he actually says, "This is great. I'm single." And it's actually funny.
That was funny.
She was a fembot the whole time?
That's what they have us believe. Remember Basil exposition at some point, and this is like, oh yes, we knew that. And they make a joke of it. This movie is the one way that it's really, really modern is that it knows that it's better to just dispatch with trying to explain things with logic and just be like, whatever. It's all a joke. Doesn't matter.
They do the wink to the camera a couple times. He does the joke when they're driving about, it's amazing how much England looks like Southern California. Yeah, it is funny.
And the same thing with the time travel stuff, which as I mentioned on Twitter, like that's exactly what Avengers Endgame does too. They're basically just like, don't worry about the time travel. It's going to make your head hurt. Yeah. So then they kind of yada yada it. And this movie, I wouldn't say it invented yada yadaing, but it was very, very funny about it.
Well, he does though. And then go back, I've gone cross-eyed.
Exactly.
That's actually really funny, that part. How is number 2 still alive? He died at the end of part 1. He was killed in the fire pit. And then he just comes back with like a scab on his face.
I feel like we just talked about how no logic matters. So
picking nits is tough when no logic matters. Best quote, there's probably "Get in My Belly" became the most famous quote from this.
Come here, I'm gonna eat you! I'm bigger than you, I'm higher in the food chain! Get in my belly! Come on!
I also like Machine Gun Jubblies. How did I miss those, baby? I've just never heard Jubblies before.
Machine Gun Jubblies? How did I miss those, baby?
Perhaps next time you should try foreplay.
Immediately incorporated that in my everyday life. There's a bunch of...
There are a lot of funny Dr. Evil lines. Like, why make a trillion when we could make...
Billions?
I think that became
that's a
thing a little bit.
Oh, definitely. You just mentioned, what's remarkable is how much England looks in no way like Southern California.
Yeah.
That part was really funny. I don't know. What do you think of the Robin Swallows showdown and all that stuff in the club?
It's funny.
Yeah.
The swallow spits joke is just bad. I wish somebody had...
Yeah.
I'm all for whatever, but that was just like a bad joke. But I think it's funny that she keeps getting shot. They fall 100 stories and why won't you die?
Him landing on her.
Yeah.
really, really funny. Okay. I don't know. Do you smoke after sex? I don't know, baby. I never looked. There's some pretty funny Austin Powers.
The whole movie is quotes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could this be remade as a Netflix show? No. Probably unanswerable questions. I only have really one. Did Austin's mojo create the concept of Viagra?
I have no idea when Viagra was invented.
After.
Are you
It was
sure?
like well after. It was like 10 years after.
Well after? No.
Yeah. It was well after.
Like 2009? No. Viagra comes in before that.
I'm looking this up.
This is podcasting. Viagra was green-lighted for use by the FDA on March 27th, 1998. 1 year before Austin Powers 2.
So do you think Mojo was about Viagra? Like they saw the Viagra stuff and then
I would guess so.
Mojo is a proxy for Viagra because they knew
so.
ED jokes were coming, so they just did it as Mojo.
Yeah, where are you at on Viagra these days?
More interested in the Mojo. I guess, I don't know if this is a nitpick or an unanswerable question, but he loses his mojo and immediately can't perform.
Yeah.
But then at the end, the mojo gets broken and just spills on the floor. And then she says to him, "You've had your mojo all along." It's like, well, not really, because he was in bed with you and his mojo got taken and he immediately couldn't perform anymore. So I don't know what they wanted us to think there.
The real mojo was the friends we made along the way.
I think he should have licked the floor. I think that would have been a good out.
It's completely disgusting.
Also, what did you think of the two Austins together?
Enjoyed that.
Okay.
Enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah. Probably shouldn't have worked, but I thought it worked.
So the implication there is literally that two Austin Powers from two different timelines are going to have a menage a trois with Felicity Shagwell. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Cool. I was like 15, saw this movie. That was a great idea. This is going great.
Solid.
Yeah.
Who won the movie? It's got to be Mike Myers. Although I personally feel like it's Heather Graham because I love Heather Graham.
It's Mike Myers. Heather Graham is a Hall of Famer of her kind. She's a great actress. Gorgeous.
Tell you who didn't win it, Robert Wagner.
He did not win. He did not. No. He did not win. He's.
I liked Rob Lowe as number 2. I thought Rob Lowe had this weird '90s run where he reinvented himself, coming out of all of these '80s movies he made and Bad Influence, and then hosted SNL, which seemed crazy and was great, and then came back and did it again, and then did Wayne's World and became this kind of comic actor on the side.
I mean, is there a more resilient actor in the last 30 years? He's basically survived every scandal and failure imaginable, and he keeps bouncing back.
Then ends up on this same year, West Wing, and maybe this could have been Rob Lowe, Apex Mountain.
Might have been.
West Wing and Austin Powers, same year.
Might have been. Although I'm not sure that Rob Lowe was like getting projects greenlit. In the 80s, he was pretty hot.
St. Elmo's Fires, probably.
Yeah. Like About Last Night, that era, where he was like the star.
Craig, have you seen About Last Night?
No. What's the
I'd
best
be interested
Rob?
if you and Liz saw that one.
So the original title of About Last Night is based on a David Mamet play. It's called Sexual Perversion in Chicago.
Is it more weird than Cruel Intentions?
No, it's not more weird. It's actually like a very stereotypical rom-com dramedy type of a couple just fall in love and then everything that happens to them. And they're in Chicago in the mid 80s.
Worth the watch?
I'll be interested to see what you think. I would say watch it. All right, that's your assignment. Anyway, Rob Lowe's really good in that movie.
I enjoy
also
Rob
as
Lowe.
Jim Belushi in the John Belushi part. Because it was supposed to be John Belushi, and he played that person in the play.
Just a few years later, he almost destroyed the Oscars forever when he duetted with Snow White.
I know. People got too mad about that. It wasn't Rob Lowe's fault.
I don't think it was his fault, but it was a big mistake. This guy was a huge movie star. This would be like, what's an example? This would be like if Chris Hemsworth did something like that.
I would say Zac Efron of the 80s,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. Mike Myers wins the movie.
Is this like truly his last great moment for you?
No, because I think Shrek really matters.
But did you like it? Because it wasn't really for you by the time
I
you
just
got
think
to it.
Shrek has real cultural cachet. I think it's his last great comedy moment. I mean, when was the Kanye Katrina thing?
Oh,
Oh,
good.
06?
That is like his last great moment.
Wasn't even intentionally great.
No, but it is highly memorable.
I just thought that was incredible because there was an SNL sketch with Heather Locklear 12 years before that was basically the same moment, but
Is
it
that
was
true?
fake. Yeah, it was like an infomercial, and they're selling. I forget what they're selling, like some juice mixer or something. And Heather Locklear is like the stereotypical model next to him, and Mike Myers is selling it, and she's trying to sell it, and she goes, "And if you think that's a lie, it's not. It's something like, no." She goes, "Blah blah blah." Then you think that's a lie, like the Holocaust, and then it's like record scratch, and Mike Myers is the guy, and he's like doing this thing, doing the eyes, like doesn't know what to do. And it's the exact same face he does in the Kanye thing. But the joke is like the calls start, the calls start ringing and everybody's going nuts and she didn't realize she said anything bad and he's like trying to get out of it. And then the Kanye thing was the exact same thing.
It's amazing.
When Kanye starts ad-libbing and Mike Myers just has that look of complete fear in his face.
That moment, though, has aged in a fascinating way because of everything that Kanye has been doing for the last year, talking about politics, too. It puts a new spin on a lot of that stuff.
It actually, I think, would have been the greatest internet meme of all time if it happened when we had Twitter.
It honestly felt like it was at the time.
Yeah, it was
at
like
the
a
time,
meme.
I was like,
is
is
know
this
what
the
a meme
biggest
was.
thing that's happened on the internet ever?
Yeah.
Because I guess I was watching it live when it happened, but it lived for a long time.
It was the Mike Myers face.
Yes.
Yeah.
If that's his lasting legacy, that's a tough beat for a guy who made a lot of successful movies.
I think it was the last most famous thing he was involved in, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's in big things. I mean, he was in Bohemian Rhapsody last year.
Right.
He was in, it was kind of a silly
Well,
part.
he's having this whole character actor renaissance. The game show I'll never understand.
I get the impression he likes to challenge himself by disappearing into something. You know what else is interesting too is he brought Dr. Evil back a couple of times on The Tonight Show in the last few years, which I always felt like was kind of cheap. I never really thought it worked very well. Did you ever see that?
No.
Dr. Evil has shown up on Fallon a couple of times.
What?
Yeah, it's not very funny.
Why?
I don't know. It just feels like such an expired artifact. Like it's just not a thing that even somebody like me who grew up with Dr. Evil in a lot of ways, I was like, this is painful. Like it was really cringe.
Well, I remember when I was growing up, there was this whole generation of comedians that, like, I guess even older than my dad's generation, felt like were super funny. And my generation was like, those guys are fossils. They're not funny at all. And it was like Sid Caesar and Milton Berle and Jackie Gleason. It's just like, I don't get it.
Yep.
And it makes me sad to think Mike Myers might be that person for somebody like Liz Kelly who didn't laugh once during Austin Powers.
Who's in the driver's seat right now for this role? For the the Jim Carrey, Mike Myers, Will Ferrell, like, Melissa McCarthy had it for a little while. Like,
I mean, I would honestly say it's Hader.
Oh,
because
interesting.
Hader,
He's got to open a big movie though. These people were in big movies.
Yeah, but I'm saying like Myers was kind of the serious actor who did comedy, but it was bigger than that to him. He was actually like up to stuff.
Yep.
And I feel like Hader's like that too, but Hader's just channeled it in a more kind of dramatic, fascinating direction.
And on TV.
Like if Myers was around now, I probably think he does something like Barry.
You're probably right.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's super weird. It's he's like the Sprockets host, but it's like a murder mystery and it's like kind of real.
Hader strikes me as being just a little bit more serious, has a little bit more on his mind.
I think Myers was serious. I think that was part of the problem with him. I think he was doing like Wayne's World and shit like that, but I think he had like these higher ambitions.
I'd love to see him try to make a movie on his own that was like another world of his own invention. I'd be really curious because it's been a long time since he's done that. Since he's been at the set, it's basically since The Love Guru, and I get the impression that was very painful for him. The complete and total failure of that movie. Remember that movie? Justin Timberlake and all the bullshit going on in that movie.
I think that should be our next rewatchables.
Please no.
The unwatchables.
Please no.
Yeah. Sean Fantasy.
Thanks, Bill.
This was fun. We didn't need Garth Ryan. All
right, Peter.
Thanks for listening to the Rewatchables 1999, presented by Luminary Media. We'll be back next week with what? What's next week?
Eyes Wide Shut.
Is that true?
Do you know who's on the docket for that episode? Do you know who's scheduled to be a part of that? It's me. It's you.
Well, we got to get Mallory.
It's Chris Ryan and it's Mal Rubin.
Yeah.
I don't think the four of us have ever done a podcast together.
Wow. Are we sure we want to do that next week?
I mean, you tell me. Because you feel like this has the potential to be an explosive conversation.
No, I just feel like that we could build a whole week of content around it. Like a 7-hour podcast.
Yes, our last week.
Well, it
our
might be
final
Eyes
week
Wide
of
Shut,
content.
or we'll bait and switch with another movie next week. But that's definitely coming. Mallory on Eyes Wide Shut will probably get the website shut down.
Can't wait.
Yeah, great. Sean Fantasy, thank you.
Thanks, Bill.